You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast.
And I'm Hanna, sexologist, sensologist, lovable weirdo, oversharer, and not sorry about it.
And I'm Freya, alexithymic counsellor, mum, chaos wrangler, and happy little steamroller.
Whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, our podcast is for everybody and every brain that has ever been labelled.
Welcome back.
I'm Freya.
I'm Hanna, and hopefully that was, as good a break for you as it was for us to reflect on how lazy shows up for us in each of our own lives.
Yep. And so on this podcast today, we're continuing the conversation around lazy and looking at like how we can be a bit kinder to ourselves, or maybe rewrite a little bit of a different narrative as to how we choose to take this word forward or not take this word forward with us.
But that's the thing, reclaiming the actual name itself. I have such strong memories of you, not even that long ago. Every time you would talk about doing something, you would then preface the end of it with, "'Cause I'm a lazy bitch." And it was always like, lazy didn't mean lazy. It just meant I don't have the time, so I'm going to take the fastest route to do the thing.
And I was and that was, I think, part of it when I was going through a little bit of like, I guess, the unmasking process and starting to come to terms with all of these parts of me, and some of them are harder to accept than others, right? But actually going, you know what, that's part of me. And I think, you know, the big thing about laziness for me is it's actually one of my biggest strengths, right? Like, whilst it's seen as a value judgment, right, and covered, it's not that I'm unwilling, it's that I'm not able to do things. But that part of my brain that is hyper conscious of resources and how many spoons or F's I have to give in a day, whatever that might be, right? Like, is the part of my brain that is amazing at problem solving and like working out the like quickest, easiest way to get to an outcome with like the least resistance.
Yeah. And I'd like at this point to, for anybody not watching on YouTube, Freya is wearing the Not Lazy t-shirt that that she created, which is specifically, it's the spice jar and having the lazy label. And you're not lazy.
I'm not lazy.
You're incredibly efficient.
Right? And I'm not lazy, but like for so long, it's something that I carried so heavily. And I just, with this podcast starting, right, like it was like, do we organize insurance and set up our corporate structures, or do we make fun t-shirts and merch? And it's like the answer, so we've got something to remember it by. And the winning answer is fun t-shirts and merch, because, you know, that's where the glitter is. That's where our brains are happiest. But yeah, it was just nice to create the little memo, but like the memento.
And it's also a reminder every single time you look in the mirror as well.
Like, I'm not lazy.
No.
I'm not lazy.
You're actually
efficient.
one of the most accomplished people that I think I know.
Blessed. But I probably wouldn't have been able to get to that, to get to those goals, if I wasn't so crazy efficient about how I go about things.
And also, more importantly as well, like what you choose to spend your spoons on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty ruthless with that now. Like, possibly a little too ruthless. But yeah, really hyper aware, I guess, of that, and choosing what I do every day, because everything has got a consequence, right? Like, no matter what we do, everything is a choice and everything has a consequence. So yes, I can spend 5 minutes, 5 dopamines. I don't know the official measure of dopamines, but like 5 glycins, whatever that might be.
How many dopamines is a calorie?
17. But like, however I might spend that, right? I'm really aware of what's this going to cost me versus what's the payoff, you know, against me, my priorities and my values, and that ability to accept enoughness. And this is something I talk about, you know, again, quite a bit with clients, and something in this overwhelm course that I've created, right, is this idea of accepting enough. And more often than not, what we're doing every day is catered towards more than enough, right? Like, a lot of the things we look at, like your example of like organizing the cupboard, right, and doing everything and making it the gold standard and everything else, that's not enough. Like, that's more than enough. That is like, we're almost over servicing that, and we're giving way too much, which then allows less time for and space and energy for other things.
It's interesting, you know, as soon as you look under the covers and try to understand, well, what's the motivation behind that? It's actually because I've realized I have too much stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty about having so much stuff that I could donate or gift or whatever the case may be. And I feel hemmed in, overwhelmed by how much stuff is there. So in my brain, I go, well, what is the place where I know that I've stored the most amount of crap that I haven't looked at for however long? And if it's out of sight, out of mind, right? Like, it can't be that important. There's a 1970s Australian Monopoly game that I think I picked up at an op shop once. I hate Monopoly with a fiery passion.
I was going to be like, you loathe Monopoly.
I hate Monopoly.
Yeah.
Because to me, and they've done studies on this, that it actually shows that it brings out the worst in people.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so, but for some reason, it sits in the cupboard because
it's a heavy object you can't get rid of.
Yeah. And I don't know why. Is it because it's Australian? Is it because it's like it's something that you don't see very often?
Yeah.
But I think when I get home, I will be throwing it out because
I'll hold you to that.
It does not make any sense to my brain.
But it's interesting as you say that, because like in your head, it's like, I have too much stuff. The answer is get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas it's interesting to me, like I look at that in my brain, and this is, I think, where that super lazy, like problem solving, creative bit comes in. Goes, well, what's actually going to make the biggest dent in the amount of stuff that I have is I immediately stop purchasing stuff, right? And it's like that will then give me a breather. That will then give me some leg room that I'm not bringing more into the fold to then start working through.
That's not a problem I have.
No.
Ever since I stopped online shopping.
Yeah.
It's more just the realization of I have enough.
Yeah.
But the part of me that still for some reason thinks that I can pick up and move overseas and do all the rest of it. And there's a bizarre sort of trigger that happens at that point. And then I say, well, there is too much right now.
Yeah.
And it's too much and it's weighing me down. The irony being, of course, when I travel, is I want everything.
Yeah.
And I want the options and I want the selection.
But we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile that then in your head about the laziness? Like, what's your narrative now for you? Like, what is the way that you view laziness for you in your life?
I think that if you were to break laziness down into sort of subtypes as to the reasons why, it's not necessarily the externalization that comes from it. It's the why is this happening?
Yeah.
And so when you actually break it down and you go, well, if I've got high standards and I have executive dysfunction, then I have overwhelm. Yeah. I'm not lazy, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If I've got a fear of mistakes, then that leads to procrastination or finding something else shiny to grab onto, something easy that I can sort of feel that I'm sort of riding quite high on. Then I end up having avoidance.
Yep.
If I've got masking and societal pressure, then that's burnout.
Yeah, okay.
And then if I have missed goals, then that's shame. And then I've got reinforcing of perfectionism.
Okay.
So if you can take overwhelm, avoidance, burnout, and perfectionism and have a look and actually sort of go, well, which one of these is actually applying to this feeling of me being lazy, of not doing enough? It allows me to have compassion for myself.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's not, as you say, the definition, which is I'm unwilling.
Yeah.
If I'm in burnout, then I feel like I'm in threat.
Yeah.
If I'm in overwhelm, then I feel that I'm frozen. And if I've got fear of perfectionism, then it allows me to go, well, whose idea of perfectionism? Whose idea of perfect am I trying to meet? Is it mine or is it somebody else's? And I'm taking that safety and that psychological safety of my immediate relationships to go and actually verify that with somebody else and say, is this too high? Is my standards in this thing too high? Or when I talk to my husband and I say, this is what I'm thinking that you've asked me to do. This is what I think I have to do.
Yeah.
Is this accurate? And more often than not, it's not.
You're
accurate.
doing more than enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As opposed to
to too little. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't work in a vacuum because your brain will often spiral and it will create scenarios that are very unlikely, but those scenarios are likely to come up because of past experiences, whether it's your inner child or whether it's an old boss or somebody in your life that made you feel like you weren't doing enough despite the fact that you were actually doing significantly more, you've got to be able to stop that person from living rent-free in your head.
Yep.
And realize that you are only one person. You're not Superman, Superwoman, super person. You are one person with a limited amount of energy and a limited amount of hours in the day.
Yep.
And that if everybody out there could get everything done, we would be in a very different world.
Even the multi-billion-dollar corporations, right, like that exist on this planet, they don't have enough resources to get everything done in a day that they want to, for global domination, but they don't have anything either. So it's like, why do we expect that of themselves? And like the analogy I love using is like a battery, right? And the way I see it, right, is you've got fundamental basis capacity, right, in your battery, and that will change over a period of time, right, over a lifetime. It's not necessarily like none of these things are fixed, but you will have a certain capacity. Like how much can I actually hold, right, of energy? Then you'll have, what are the demands on that, right? So if you've got a 5 kilowatt battery and you're running 10 kilowatts of demands, you're going to be importing a lot from the grid, right? Like you are going to be needing to, you're at a shortfall, right? Your battery isn't going to be able to do that. And then the other thing to be able to look at is how quickly does it drain, and like what's the drain rate? So again, like if it's recharging constantly, and what's the recharge rate? So if it's easy and it's fast to recharge and things that you can do to get that momentum and get that energy back up again, happy days, like amazing, great. But if you can't, the only way you're going to be able to recharge your battery for a lot of us is like nighttime when you fall in a heap, before bed. Well, okay, you've got to then be able to make that bad boy last all day. So, the levers you've got basically is you can recharge it more, you can reduce the amount of drain on the battery, or you can focus on building bigger capacity. But that, to be able to build a bigger capacity, you actually need some resources to be able to do that, right? That's like 100%. A longer term and a slower play. And so it's that constant piece of, how do we actually, how do we adjust? Like, how do we do this? And there's like another rule I love using, which I call as my rule of fives. And this is, how long am I going to remember this for? Like the consequence of this decision. And that shows me how much attention I'm going to pay to it. So will I remember it in 5 seconds? With my brain, probably not. 5 minutes, like 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, 5 decades, right? And if it's anything under 5 years,
Mum told you that.
Or 5 decades, no. If it's anything under that, then I don't pay attention to it. Like literally it will pass. And if it's on that 5 years, 5 decades, like it's a big decision, it's a big effort piece, then like get help, right? Like don't shoulder that stuff alone. Like we don't have to. But it's kind of like, well, if it's actually not going to make that big a difference, then it makes it easier to let go of.
Yeah.
And like let go of that expectation, or let go of that idea of what good looks like.
Yeah. And I think as well, like that black and white thinking as well, like it's unhelpful. And it's hilarious because you're wearing a white top, I'm wearing a black top.
Yeah.
And yet, between us is a whole bunch of grey. And when we have that black and white thinking, I find that that's quite detrimental as well. And particularly we look at all of the reels out there, social media, but also a lot of the self-help books.
Yeah.
A lot of the self-help books which talk about chaining habits, of cutting things out, of doing things in a certain way. A lot of them have actually been written for neurotypicals.
Yeah, it's a different brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you read them, you go, oh, this is so easy. And then when it actually comes to doing it and you can't do it, then there's, I think, again, then that internalized shame that I find to be so prevalent in everybody that I speak to, because they can't seem to understand why everybody else can seem to do it. Obviously, books are international bestsellers. They've sold millions of copies. But when it comes to us, it just seems an executive dysfunction is real.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that again. Executive dysfunction is real. And it's okay. It's a part of being neurodiverse.
Yeah.
And I think the most beautiful thing that you can do is ask for not just acceptance from yourself, but also set that expectation with your loved ones, whether it's family, whether it's a loving relationship, and actually have the opportunity to say to them, look, I'm not always going to show up and do the thing at 100%.
Yeah.
I might only be able to do it at 80%. But as long as it gets done, I'm asking for your acceptance that that's okay and to not shame me.
I think there's a big part about that too, right, with that agency and how we advocate for ourselves and what we expect from others as well. But
I expect way more from myself than I would ever expect from anybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And like letting go of that stuff. But then also with other people saying, you know what, if it is urgent and you think I might have forgotten, it's okay to remind me. Like, you know, you're not going to be hounding me. You're not going to be harassing me. Like,
I will probably thank you.
Yeah. Like I legit have forgotten that you or the thing exists. So, you know, it's nice when you pop up in my phone. I'm like, oh, I have a friend. You know, that's always good. But like, you know, it's that side of things, you know, or being able to check in with somebody around the expectations, you know, but also as well for other people. Like I used to get really, you're going to laugh at this, but like you remember me like the grocery shopping and everything had to be put on the conveyor belt, like in a certain way.
You would actually do their job for them because we didn't have Aldi back in those days.
No.
And so they would be putting things wrong in the shopping bag and you would be like, look, and you would, I could actually see the antsiness inside you sort of creep out. It was like you had like spiders crawling on you and you were just itching, and then eventually you're like, I just need to do this.
I need to put them in the right bags and the right thing. And again, that's like a coping mechanism because like if I didn't have all the cold things in a cold bag and then I'd forget to put stuff in the fridge or I'd leave a bag in the car, then it would go off. And there was a notable memory with chicken livers and that did not end well in a hot summer day. It was not great. It was not good. But like, so it was like a honed like coping mechanism for me. But it also inhibited the ability to actually get help and get some support for some other things. So now things like that, like stacking the dishwasher, I don't care how it's stacked. You stack it however you want, right? As long as it's done, and that piece of done is better than not at all. And I think, you know, when we are asking for help and we're offering for help to other people, but also as well when we're getting help in return, recognizing that, it's not going to be done your way. It may not be done to your standard, but it's done.
Yeah.
And that's a well load better than not even starting.
It's like run the dishwasher twice. It was an email that went around ages ago, and it was about a person who was seeing a psychologist, and they were expressing the fact that there were some days that they just could not handle the dishwasher. It was a crappy dishwasher. It basically burnt food onto the plates, and it sounded horrendous. And so normally most people would be like, we'll get a new dishwasher.
Yeah.
But I can't afford it. So when it actually came down to it, the psychologist said, we'll run the dishwasher twice.
Yeah.
And the person said, but I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to waste water. I'm not supposed to, you know, it's an extra energy. And they basically said, is this hampering your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I think about it, every time I come home, every time I see it, I get this horrible feeling. Great. Run the dishwasher twice. Stop thinking about what you're supposed to do and find the thing that works for you.
Yes.
And I think that that's such a beautiful message, because at the end of the day, we may have come up with coping mechanisms or strategies that once served us, but they don't serve us anymore. But we keep doing them because, well, they worked for us once, and we might not actually have the amount of spoons to go find something that does work. So if you can do one thing differently in the day that makes your day easier, do it. Go forth and conquer, whether you're supposed to or not. This whole idea of I'm not supposed to do ... I'm not supposed to eat ice cream for lunch or breakfast or whatever the case may be. But if you don't have enough energy in the mornings, maybe that little burst of sugar might be enough to get you to the next stage, rather than this constant thing of I'm not supposed to do this thing.
Yeah. Whose rules are they, right?
Yeah.
Whose rules are they? And it's funny as you say that too. Like another like exercise I love doing with clients, you know, and this sort of with burnout and overwhelm as well, is just going through a list of like all of those daily like things that we need to do to keep ourselves alive or to keep our little humans alive that often take a lot of energy and are quite draining, and actually going through them. So like showering, for example, like personal hygiene tasks and stuff like that, and going through and going, what's a high energy effort, like a full, like maximum effort, a middle, and a low. So, for example, like with showering, like a high might be I'm washing my hair, I'm going the whole nine, right? Like, I might even shave my legs in there if it's,
Let's go crazy.
way. I might even remember to shave both of them. That would be exciting. But like, my birthday or something. But like, it's doing that full like showering, grooming routine. Then like a middle point of that might be just running a bath and sitting in it, right? Because that's actually less effort, right? It's different for everybody. But then a low one is actually going, you know what, I'm just going to wipe down at the sink, camping style, use dry shampoo if I need to, brush my teeth, right? That's the low effort one. And actually going through those different domains of your life. And you can do the same thing with eating, the same thing with hydration, other things like self-care, exercise, that sort of stuff of doing it, having it somewhere visible in the space that you do it, but that you've already given yourself permission. So when you come into it and it's dinner time and it's actually, well, I don't have a lot of energy left, or it's shower time, I don't have a lot of energy left, I've only got a medium. Great, play the medium card, and it's already thought out for you. So you're not in the process, in the moment, when you're already exhausted and everything is feeling harder, trying to come up with a solution of what will work for you or what will be acceptable.
Yeah.
It's like it's there. You just go, I have medium energy and this is the task I'm doing. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, it's like, as well, I think laziness often gets, depression also gets misconstrued with laziness.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so with depression, I've known people who have not had enough energy to even put the dishes in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
So their solution has just to use paper plates. Paper plates go in the bin.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the mess. And I think if there's such a beautiful message in that, which is you deserve to eat at the end of the day. And whatever you can do, whatever you can manage in that time, like just do it. Again, you're not supposed to use paper plates because there's the environmental impacts. But again, if it just helps you get through to that next phase, I think it can be so important, so impactful. And there's often, and again, because that idea of using paper plates, before somebody explained it to me, I thought, well, I had an ex-boyfriend that did that. And he specifically told me it was because he just couldn't be bothered to do dishes, despite the fact he had a dishwasher. And at the time, I remember thinking, well, that's such a frat boy, immature thing to do.
Yeah.
And then in hindsight, I was like, well, actually,
maybe that's what he was capable of at the time.
Absolutely.
That's what he actually had.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really funny, like, all of those different ideas and strategies and whatever that is, and giving ourselves permission to think differently. But part of it's about doing it at the time when you do actually have the energy and the momentum, right? There's no point in building the plan for how to evacuate the building when the house is already on fire.
Or you're the dog in the house and just going, this is fine. Everything is on fire.
This will be okay. But yeah, exactly. It's like being able to carve out the time to be able to do that and use other people to think of solutions and what are we willing to accept here, and giving ourselves permission to colour outside the lines. So like with eating, right, is a full thing might be, a new recipe. A mid-range might be that it's just a recipe I know how to cook with my eyes closed, or it's chicken nuggets from the freezer and some frozen veg, right? Then a low effort might actually be it's cereal for dinner, it's yoga pouches, right? Like I don't have the ability to chew right now. I need some nourishment. This is okay. And it's again taking those ideas of those expectations about what is acceptable.
Oh, look, it was ingrained into me that dinner had to be a rainbow plate.
Yeah.
Every colour had to be on there in one way or another.
Yeah.
And so then I would feel guilty if I didn't appear to have a fully stacked out plate.
Yeah.
Or having, this little voice in my head of just going, well, do you really need to eat that much? There are so many things. I also find that burnout in particular as well is such a, it's an invisible short-term disability, I'm going to call it, because with burnout, your body has literally feels like it's run through a marathon. Like your cortisol is jacked up, your physiological responses, everything is at a heightened level. And this is something that I got from the Feminist Survival podcast with Emily and Amelia.
The names.
Yeah. Nagoski. They're, the way that they've described it in their beautiful book, Burnout, as well, also discusses how important it is to let your body know that it has gone into safety So imagine burnout essentially being like you're constantly chased by a tiger. Now, in the old days, you might be chased by the tiger, you might be running towards, a village, or it might not be a tiger, it might be a dog, it might be something or someone is chasing you, and you find your way to safety. Your body knows that once it's gone through the exertion effort, the physical exertion effort,
Collapse.
there's a collapse.
Yeah.
And at that point, there are signs that you start to convey to your body, and your brain will tell you that you're in a safe place. But if you're constantly feeling under threat, the tiger, the dog, the wolf, the human, whatever, they're constantly chasing you.
Yeah.
You never actually get out of burnout. And so the way to signal to your body that you have survived is to do something with a certain amount of physical exertion, and then be able to do that slow, deep breathing that lets you come back, and that tells your body that you're safe now. And I sort of think about it and say, well, what could I do without necessarily doing the physical exertion on days when I just have no energy left?
Yeah.
And so it might just be sitting in a dark room. It might be having a bath. It might be putting on some music. It might even be putting a crystal on my forehead. Like, it's just something that makes me stop. Because lazy is one of those labels that on the outside, it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. But on the inside, there's a cacophony of everything all the time.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you touched on like burnout in that way since too, because it's really like, it's one of those things for neurodivergent people, right? For us, we go into burnout often more. And it's this extremes, and learning over time how to, and it's been a big thing for me, unmasking, is being able to moderate my own energy. And with a lot of clients I work with too, being able to do that as opposed to living in these extremes of the dopamine chasing, or, intensely focused on our passions, ignoring everything else that doesn't exist beyond that, down to like getting overwhelmed over a period of time, hiding, masking, all of those things that take energy out, and then to these deep slumps, and then a period of time, just up and down and constantly up and down, and working through it and managing that. It is different to neurotypical burnout in so many ways. And like sensory requirements are in there as a really big thing.
That's why we're in the cupboard.
Why we're in
we're in
my
the closet
sensory room,
on the fuzzy bean bags with the fuzzy, rug.
All the fluffy around us. It's so nice in here. But yeah, it's all of that sort of stuff that needs to be, managed to then work through, and to be able to get out of it, but also as well to sustainably stay out of it, and build that window of tolerance so that we're less susceptible to falling back in. So that's a really, really big one. But like, I think about like my laziness, I guess, when I'm healthy and when I'm in a good mental space and I'm not in deep burnout troughs and that sort of stuff. And it's actually now, it's one of those parts of me that I probably like love the most, because it is the same part of my brain. Like, executive dysfunction is absolutely real. And it can be frustrating, exhausting to deal with on a regular basis. At the same time, I can now see the lazy parts of my brain as that's the creative, crazy, like phenomenal dot joining, problem solving part of my brain, which is what I've built like a huge corporate career on prior to coming to counselling. But even when I'm working with a client, it's almost like a map of the client lights up in my head, and I can see and I can join dots and connections. And it's like, for me, it's such an amazingly powerful part of my brain. And the way I describe it's like a rock climber, like constantly, my brain's like working its way up the rock face, constantly readjusting, trying to find the most efficient, easiest way to get to the top. Like every single day I do it without even being aware of it. But it's those parts of my brain that are actually the problem solving, the solutioning, coming out with wild and wacky ways to do things that other people just can't see or wouldn't see.
Yeah.
And so like I've actually, what I used to say, I'm a lazy biatch. And like a little bit of it was self-deprecating, but a lot of it was also as well, actually, you know what, I like her. She's a big part of me, yeah. And that's been big.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that about the corporate work.
Yeah.
Because the projects that I've worked on, they're the ones that they're the end of the end of the end of the end of the line.
You get the hard ones
I get
that
the hard
no one
ones.
else can solve,
Yeah.
no one else can crack, right? Yeah.
And because my brain does not like ambiguity.
Yeah.
So I look for the immediate problems to
Yeah.
be solved.
Yeah.
And the most frustrating part is my brain will get to an end result. Now, it might not be the right end result to start with, but it's a pathway.
Yeah.
And I will get really, really frustrated when other people can't
see the same pathway.
Yeah. And so there's often a bit of a disconnect there, and I find that there's that really beautiful friction between the neurodiversity and the neurotypical brains, where you need the neurodiversity to be able to make the connections, but you need the neurotypical brains to be able to say, well, actually, how are we going to get there?
Yeah, like let's put this in a logical hierarchical order, because it's that same part of our brain that doesn't do the hierarchical thinking, that's able to kind of put things out there and flip it and see it in a different way and see things relate to one another that neurotypical brains may not be able to see, right? But then when it comes time to make the plan to make it happen, right? And then it's just like, what's the most important thing here? What's the, what's the order? What's the sequence? How do we make this happen? So
but that's where my laziness comes in.
Yeah.
My laziness kicks in because I don't want to make the process map.
Yeah.
Because I have a high level map made out. I don't want to make it happen. I've given birth to the idea.
Yeah.
I need other people to actually bring it to life.
Yeah. And it's like, we need the team. We need the whole team, which is so cool.
It's beautiful. And I actually really find that when I allow myself the space and the creativity to do those things rather than forcing my brain through a series of rigid frameworks, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. We need that space and we need that time, and again, to do it in our own way. And if you look on the outside looking at it, might seem like the weirdest order to do something in, but it works for us, and that's okay. And it's like, if it's getting to the outcome, does the method really, really matter? And it's so funny as well, I was reviewing, doing research, this podcast and stuff like that, and and popping in and chatting with AI and asking about neurodivergent people through history that have been tarred with the lazy brush, and some crackers came up, and I had no idea, but Agatha Christie is actually dyslexic.
Really?
Yeah. And one of the most incredible authors of all time, and also as well, in her time, to be a feminist author in the genre that she did was groundbreaking,
amazing.
phenomenal. And she was dyslexic, and she used to dictate her books rather than write them out.
That makes sense.
And people used to call her lazy when in fact it was actually it was a management strategy, right? And it was an accommodation that she actually needed. And again, at the time, in the context of the time, was whoa, that's, an author that doesn't want to sit at a typewriter. It's what is this?
You mean she doesn't want to sit still for however many hours a day?
Exactly. And she's more creative when she's doing other things and dictating. But I just thought that was such a beautiful spin on it. And again, I think a lot of that creativity that comes from us and the problem solving, I think, is because we come up against so many roadblocks every day. And so, that we do need to find those accommodations. And another one was Richard Branson as well. And so he's an ADHD and dyslexic as well. And he talks in his autobiography, and I read it years ago, about struggling with classroom tasks, but that he also, and he was called lazy a lot at school. And in the good old, if only you applied yourself, that one that would both hit us.
If I had a penny, I'd have a lot of coins.
I would have so many coins, all the coins. But, and he actually recognises that that's actually, the big problem-solving centre of his brain as well, and his entrepreneurial driver. And, I love that space of it, and I'm a big fan of dialectical thinking, which is, I'm probably saying it wrong because my brain sometimes does that, but dialectical thinking, that idea that two opposing ideas can actually both be true. And so for me, it's that thing of going, well, you know what, I'm lazy and I'm efficient, right? I'm lazy and I'm resourceful. I'm lazy and I'm getting stuff done. Allowing space for both of those things to exist.
And changing the definition for you.
Yeah.
Which is probably more important. Because the thing about labels is, they're insidious. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When they stick to you and, as you say, tar with the same brush, there's such an internalization of what the other person meant by that.
Yeah.
That if you're going to keep the label, then change it to suit you. Change it to suit the way that you behave, that you operate, so that it's no longer this massive sack of coins that we're dragging around.
Yeah,
it's it's that at the end of the day, like, yes, I'm going to own the fact that I don't do things the long way. I'm going to own the fact that I don't do things the way that I've been told to do them.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to the outcome. And also, whether it's somebody else's idea of perfectionism, whether it's my own idea of perfectionism, introducing the idea of good enough. You know, Brene Brown has paint done, which I love as a concept, and I've talked about it a lot at work, because there's often, particularly when you work on projects, there's a bit of a trap that you can fall into, which is the project never ends.
No.
There's always improvements, particularly if you look at the agile methodology, the waterfall methodology. And so at what point is good enough? What point do you hand it over and say, I've done everything
for now?
Yep. So introducing the idea of a charter.
Yeah.
When you start something, actually writing down, whether it's in a notebook or having a conversation with somebody, but understanding from the outset what is in scope, what is out of scope, so that going in, you've got really clear expectations.
Yeah.
Come back around to expectations again, really clear expectations so that everybody is on the same page, so that you know when it's time to stop, and you also know when it's okay to stop, and you stop operating from this position of, if I don't keep going, if I don't make it perfect, I'm going to get yelled at.
Yeah. And I think what I find really helpful in that scenario too is to think about what is the intent behind what you're trying to do.
Mm.
So, for example, and I'm going to pick on house cleaning again today, because remembering the horror stories of the share house that you and I used to live in, like back in the day at uni, and just being like, oh my gosh, how we survived that, right? But the purpose of cleaning the house, right, is to have a hygienic environment, right? That's realistically what it is. So if you go back to the intent of a hygienic environment, like, what is good enough? So is that, you know, once a week we're going to clean the bathrooms and vacuum the floor and mop, and I might try and tidy a little bit as I go, right? So I can clean the surface easier. That's good enough. Anything above that is more than enough, you know, and anything less than that is probably not enough. And based on our share house, definitely not enough. You know, but it coming back to what's the intent behind the thing that you're doing, and then moderating to that as being the baseline, because we'll tend to go always to over delivering and doing more and setting the expectation higher, which leads to that paralysis. So.
And if you're expecting to end up with a picture perfect house at the end that looks like the inside of a magazine or something along those lines, again, unrealistic expectations for a house that people actually live in. It's, you mentioned it before, if people come over to your house and, you know, it's messy and there's stuff everywhere and there's kids' toys, I mean, that's just part of the acceptance factor.
Yeah, and if it's really important to you to come to, or to be an environment that's clean and tidy, and if anyone's listening and your house is immaculate and tidy and clean all the time, hats off to you. Like, amazing that you're able to do that, not to take away from that. But if it's important to you to be in an environment like that, then we'll come hang at yours, or we'll go to a park. You know, like, we can find a way, but I'm not going to be going to that standard, because, again, to me, that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I'm spending an hour and a half a day cleaning my house, it's going to take so much energy and resources out of me that I just do not have. And it's going to hamper my ability to do other things, like read a book with my daughter, or walk her to school, or be able to front up and help a client, you know, when and where they need to, you know, and in that moment be there for them. Or, you know, I'm not going to have the time or the energy to be a good partner.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, it's just working out what's the intent, like, what is it, and then what's okay, and then what am I willing to let go of?
Yeah.
And doing that. And and so that's like I think a really, really good rule to have, and just as well to get that shared understanding. Because if we say to as well, like, picture an elephant in your head, you're going to probably come up. Tell me, what elephant do you think of when I say picture an elephant? Describe it.
Grey, I want to say majestic, wrinkled skin.
So real life.
Yeah,
elephant.
real life elephant.
Okay, cool. Yeah, right. Is it in the wild? Is it in the zoo?
No, it's in the wild.
Okay, cool. So, like, for me, when it said picture an elephant, I'm like, Baba, right?
Oh,
like,
my God,
from the
right.
children's book, right? And so, like, completely different ideas of elephant. So we might be saying the standard is elephant, but your elephant's probably really different to mine. And so, yeah, how do you get that shared expectation, and what's the intent behind it, and where are you willing to then let go of?
Yeah, I love that.
So that probably...
Which hill are you willing to die on?
Which hill is they willing to die on? And I guess that sort of brings me to like a little bit of this idea of we've got around the spice jar, and that's like a little tool that we've found helpful, or something that to take away and that you can download and that you can access. And it's not advice, it's not a replacement for therapy, right? Like it is just for education and entertainment purposes only. But it's just something which might actually be helpful or supportive of you. And so, we thought we'd just both bring something to the table each episode, and you can download and you can keep them from our website, and note details are in the podcast notes for there to link through. But like, I think it's really interesting that both of us, we've talked a lot about like the mindset around getting things done and accepting and all that sort of stuff around, but the tools that we've got are actually like really practical around the executive.
Because it's great to talk about it, but at the end of the day,
when you decide to do something, you still
action
have to
has
do
to
it.
Be taken. Otherwise nothing gets done.
It's in the not enough bucket.
And nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to this, chances are is that you've probably done a bunch of things that haven't worked.
Yeah.
You want things to change. You want a different outcome.
Yeah.
If you're striving towards that, then if you don't know where to start, being open, having that curiosity, being curious is the antithesis to being lost. So find a place, pick there, and just start walking.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, walk backwards, go in a different direction.
And that's okay. And it's like different things will work for different people, different things will work for different brains. And so I guess my one, the spice jar, is just, we call it momentum makers. So again, it's when you are deciding to take action and you are wanting to do something, strategies you can take to help address that dopamine imbalance that exists in the brain. And what I find with a lot of the clients that I work with, it's just like, again, when we're in that situation, the house is on fire, we need to do the thing, trying to remember what these strategies are. Like it's not there. Like even as I talk about it now, like I'm frantically scanning my notes to go, what have I got on the sheet? Because I can't list them off the top of my head because my brain doesn't allow recall to be really easy. So it's about having it somewhere accessible and as a little reminder that it's not you, it's not a personal failing, it's just a chemistry thing. It's about momentum. It's like you've got a ball and it's sitting in a gravel pit and you're trying to roll it. Like, let's smooth the path. Like, let's do some things to allow it time to build and to work it through. And so, I've just got a few different strategies that you can employ on your own with somebody else, or even using things like AI and those type of things to make it easier to get started. Probably my favorite one in there is task stacking, and I find that works really, really well with me. And that's where, like, I list out the tasks I need to do, and I don't include any like basic things like have a cup of tea or like, basic self-care stuff in there, but I list out tasks that are important to me at the time, and then I rank them not from most important to least important on the day. I rank them from hardest to easiest. Easiest to hardest, other way around, right? Like which is going to take the least amount of resistance to start, right? That I can tick off the most simply and start there. And as I go through, right, I might play some music, I might make it more fun, I might set myself a challenge, turn it into a little bit of a game to even boost that further. I might boost the reward center further, boost the dopamine, the happy chemicals more. But literally just to start and go through. And it might be, the first thing is literally I need to put, not the whole dishwasher, but I just need to empty the drainage rack and put that in a drawer. Or I need to put one thing away, right? It might be something really, really small, but just starting with that, we'll send one email. Whatever that is, the easy thing, starting there, doing that. I then get the release of chemicals. I then can do the next thing on the list and the next thing on the list and the next thing on the list, and it starts to build and build and build and build. And it's so funny, I reach this point where it's like, I call it my Titanic moment, like before the boat sinks, like I'm the king of the world, but like where I can feel the chemistry in my body change and suddenly I feel unstoppable and like everything's doable and achievable. And that's the moment that I do the hard thing. I also set a reminder as well, a time alert on my phone for when I need to stop doing the thing and come out of it, because sometimes when you do get in that zone, you can build it and it can be hard to come out, like the reminder that I have a child and I need to collect her from school. It goes off every day at the same time. But I will at that moment when I'm cresting, like when I'm the top of the wave, where I'm the king of the world, and I can feel the body chemistry and I can feel everything feeling easier and lighter, that's the point. Like, that is the time that I do the hard thing. And so anyway, that's my favorite one on there, but there's a lot of different strategies that you can print out and carry with you or save as a phone backdrop or whatever. So when you need it, you can link into the tools.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because I think, it's the inverse of I have to start with the hardest thing first,
Right.
because then I will get it off my plate and then it's all downhill from here. But the reality is that if you're having to literally go up the hill in order to do the hardest part first, then you've run out of energy by the time you've,
You don't even have energy to start climbing the hill in the first place. It's just like, it's so unachievable.
Yeah.
But all the neurotypical
Because
stuff.
the hill looks like a mountain.
Yeah. All the neurotypical stuff says do the hard thing first. Do the big thing first. Get it out of the way. But you need some fuel
100%.
to be able to do the thing.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the 3 cups of coffee beforehand do not help.
For me, it's 12.
And I think
What have you got?
the Spice Jar tool that I have is actually one that you gave me when I was going through a difficult patch, and it was the State of the Union.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're in a situationship, a relationship, co-parenting, partnering, could even be, still living at home with your folks, and coming up with that week of understanding, well, what are the most important things we've got coming up, and how much do I have in my bucket right now? Like, how full is my glass? And so if you're in a relationship or cohabiting with somebody, you can sit down and say, okay, well, together at the end of this week, our effort has to equal, say, 100%. Well, I only have 30% to give, and, you might only have 40% to give. So where are we going to make up this additional 30%? Yeah. And so it could
Or how can we bring the 100 down?
Yeah. So that our plate isn't as full and we don't have as much stuff to handle. So whether it's the play date that can get cancelled, whether it's the shopping trip, or maybe you've made one too many commitments, and also like having that spread out and visible as well.
Yeah.
There are so many times that I'll get to the middle of the week and realize that I've booked something for the weekend.
Yes.
Or I've booked 2 things for the weekend
or
at the
3
same
things.
time.
Yeah.
And I have this because I have a problem with viewing time as linear instead of the Doctor Who timey-wimey wibbly wobbly. And so I will book 3 things really close together, believing that I have exactly enough time to get each of them done within the allotted time, as long as none of them go over. And so sitting down and having that second person
to go
map it out and go, is this realistic? And can we cancel one of them?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get stressed and then that's going to amplify. So
to do that. And I think sometimes what happens too, if you've got 2 neurodivergent people in a relationship, and that happens a lot because, let's face it,
like
birds of a feather. Exactly, right? It was so easy, the relationship, when we started dating. We could sit in silence almost straight away. There was no pressure to talk. But I digress. But as you get 2 people in a neurodivergent relationship, too often you might have 2 people that have difficulty with time or overcommit, or you might have one person whose preferences and needs are to get out and to do everything, experience everything and taste life and not have a moment of downtime, and the other person that needs more time at home to recharge your batteries. So having that space where you can talk about that
and what your needs are
before you're in it
is
really important.
Because again, coming back to expectations, right?
Yeah.
If you think that everything's planned and you're going along and that there is this unspoken plan between the 2 of you, one of you changes the plan and all of a sudden the plan goes out the window.
Yep.
And not only do you have to task switch, but you've also got to reset your expectations.
Yes.
And so if you can actually baseline your expectations before they get to be unmanageable, it actually it creates
Huge
a lot more cohesion.
Huge difference. And like for us as well, we use it like as a big planning thing so we've got like a calendar which has got the entire month on it and columns for each and every single name of everyone in the household. And then we've got goals and meals and all of that kind of thing. We put everything out there in different color-coded markers and stuff like that. But it also allows this amazing opportunity to make sure we aren't clashing things. We haven't booked things in separately in a vacuum and then going, we're both leaving the house and going, oh, I thought you were taking her to school, and it's like...
Or you've only got one car, and so you both need to car at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it becomes this oppositional energy and this oppositional force, which is not helpful to anybody, particularly in the moment when you're already stressed,
Yeah.
right? Because we're all focused on the outcome. But the other thing as well I find with neurodivergent kids as well is that it gives them a bit of agency during the week. So to look at the calendar and like, we don't have anything on Tuesday. What do you want to do? I want to go to a play centre. I want a play date. I want to do the library. You know, like, you know, it's some spare time. So you're having the conversation about how would you best like to spend that time? What would you best like to do? We're doing the grocery list for the week. What are some things that you would like to eat and try and see? Different people get their favourite meals, you know, in the week. It just gives that really nice opportunity for everybody, you know, to have a little bit of a say.
There's also a responsibility element, which I also love as well, because I hear a lot of neurodivergent couples, and one of them can often show up more as the parent, which is never really a sexy thing. You never want to parent your partner. And so if you're constantly... That might be a fetish. That's for a different podcast. The expectation that everybody has their own set of responsibilities to look after during the week as well, and to lay that out, and first of all to set the expectation, but also to ask for acceptance again and say, look, I feel like I can do this thing, but I feel like I can only give it this amount of effort. And I feel like if it gets to this, I need to know that that's okay.
Yep.
And being able to lay it all out, everybody learns differently. So for me, I'm a visual person. I like to see everything.
Yeah.
And if I can't see it, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
And so finding that time and that opportunity to reconnect, I think, is probably the most important thing, because it's so common that we can all leave and lead individual lives. When it becomes too individual and you're all operating separately, that's where that disconnect really comes into play.
And it becomes an us against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a reminder, your partner, your family, you know, most of the time, they are not your adversaries, they're your team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say most of the time because not all relationships are perfect, and there will be some exceptions to the rule. But your support network are there to help you just as you're there to help them. And so remembering that you're on the same team is often so important to operating from the space where you're playing on separate teams and it's a constant competition and fight and effort.
And that shared goal sometimes, you know, that painting done, or that, you know, definition of done, whatever that might be, that shared goal we're trying to get through together. And I think, as I remember as you're talking about it too, and I'm like, for me, it's always, particularly with a lot of clients too, right? It's not about the tool. It's not about, you know, this is the planner that's going to fix everything and, you know, and you're a failure if it doesn't work. It's often the behaviour that exists around it. And so for us, like Sunday nights, you know, having that family dinner where we do that planning, we literally add items to the grocery cart at the same time and they get delivered, you know, the following day, you know, at an appropriate window. But like, you know, we send the requests for play dates, whatever it might be then and there on the spot. But like having that time in that space, it also reduces the cognitive load because we've batched a lot of decision making together as well. So it's, and you've got other people around you, you've got that shared energy, you've got that momentum, you know, it just makes, I find everything so much easier.
Yeah. And it also means that you're forward planning opportunities, the time for like to spend together.
Yep.
And rather than slotting it in and around the activities that might have to happen, you know, school, work, So you're actually taking the time to go, well, this is everything we've got this week. What can we do to reconnect just for us?
Yeah.
You know, we might not have time to go out for dinner, but let's go for a walk on Wednesday morning before work. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's, you know, find just, even if it's 15 minutes a day.
Moments.
Yeah. And finding that time as well. Like I have a very strong thing where every night my husband and I do a 6-second kiss before we go to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah. That's our nightly ritual, right? Because we may not have had...
I love that for you. It makes me feel unwell, but for you, I love that.
Because it's, for us, it's, we're really busy. Like we both stack our plates to brimming, and I don't know if we know how to not do that because we've operated like in this state for so long.
It's a new normal.
So even if we've cooked dinner together and things like that at the end of the day, it's still just another way to reconnect for the two of us and make sure that we've got that, you know, intimacy bond before we go to sleep.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I love that. That's cute. So I guess that's probably it for our lazy episode. Hearing from two incredibly lazy people here, so much on our plates, and juggling and working through. But I guess the key things for me, as we've talked about, that really stand out, that it is an equation of momentum. It's not about motivation.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a personal failing. If you're finding things hard, that's sometimes how our brains work. But there's also stuff we can do about it, and we can change that dialogue and that narrative, you know, that we have with ourselves and the way in which we talk to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder that, you know, if you were truly lazy, you would be having a great old time. And that if things are hard and you continue to do them the same way and you can't see a way out, that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah,
It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean that you've failed. It means that you are human.
absolutely. And everyone has hard days,
Everyone has hard days.
and nobody has enough time to do everything.
You are
that is
not a
asked of them.
superhuman.
You are not.
As
You are
much
not
as
the
you might want to be,
exception
you
to
are,
the rule.
yes,
You
you
are
are
not a
not
superhuman. You heard it here first, folks. You are not special in any way. So that's it for our lazy episode. We'd love to hear from you on the website or in the comments on our YouTube channel as well, if any of this has resonated with you, or any strategies that you've got that help with your lazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sharing your experience is a really valuable way for other people. If anything that we've said here doesn't work for you, it does not mean that something out there won't. It means that you just haven't found the right tool.
The right thing yet. So that's it for this week. We hope to see you again.
Thanks for joining us.
You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast.
With Hanna and Freya, besties, brains, and more.
If you've enjoyed listening, follow us on YouTube or your favourite podcast app and share it with someone else who knows the sting of a sticky label.
We'll see you next time. Until then, stay spicy, stay wonderful.